Nick, what are you doing?
I mean, I'm watching tennis right now, Anastasia. What else would I be doing?
Wouldn't expect anything less.
We are recording this during the Djokovic versus Rune match. As I am currently speaking, is 1-0 Djokovic, 3 games all, and it's 40-30 Rune on serve. Was 40-15 Rune put a forehand into the net.
Okie doke. I kind of think I know where that match is going to go. Rune hasn't really been playing phenomenal tennis, even though he has really great matchups with Djokovic, who is playing on one knee. Everyone, the man is a legend.
Yes. And, you know, not everyone can play tennis on one knee, as Alexander Zverev found out earlier.
Yes, that was also a big upset. Is that an upset?
Well, it depends on the context,
seeding,
right?
By seeding.
Seeding, yes, but like Taylor Fritz is really good, and it's grass, and Zverev historically is not a huge fan of the surface, or hasn't been since he was a teenager.
Right. And, you know, Taylor's coming off of a tournament win at Eastbourne, so, you know, maybe not so much of an upset, but we are getting way ahead of ourselves here, Nick, jumping right into the tennis. Well, welcome back. I think if you've been listening to the podcast feed, you've heard at this point 3 little mini perfect on-site episodes from Nick, because Nick was on-site at Wimbledon.
I was indeed.
Did you get back today?
No, I got back on Friday. I've been in my house on Friday, and if anyone's seen, I don't think Anastasia, you shared this, my Friday since has been in front of 3, 4, up to 5 screens with the tennis on in my living room. I
think I saw it, but I haven't shared it yet, and I will. I am going to share this on our social feed of what Nick is looking at right now.
Well, not right now, because there's only one match happening. I think there might be a doubles match on the outside courts, but I also need one of my screens to talk to you, Anastasia.
Sorry, I took one of the screens away from the tennis. Boo.
How dare you?
But I really have to show this photo because it's actually pretty great. You got back from Wimbledon and just put all the screens on.
Literally the first thing. So get back from Wimbledon, bearing in mind I've been up since about 7, 8 a.m., literally rolled out of bed, packed up my stuff, got out the hotel, jumped on the tube, got onto a train back to my home, which took about an hour and a half, got on a cab to my house, get in my house. Immediately on getting in, I am hunting out my laptops and I am plugging them in and I am getting all the different courts up that I want to see and turning my TV on.
Oh, so good. Okay.
Wimbledon's the only event I can do that for, by the way, due to the way it all works, because some different accounts don't like you having things on multiple screens. So like most of the time with the tour, I can't do that. But because everything's on the BBC here, I totally can.
Yep. I wish we had something similar like that for the US Open. It would be nice if the US Open could be on public television and everyone could have access to it. I think it is one of the most brilliant things about Wimbledon and being in the UK is that the accessibility of Wimbledon, at least on TV, it's there. You can watch it whenever you feel like it. Well, let's jump in a little bit to what Wimbledon was like for you. So you went with your mom. So you were there with your mom for 2 days, and then you had 1 day to yourself, which we will talk about, because if you listened to the last episode of the podcast, or if you saw the little post that I posted on our Instagram, it was the perfect day. Nick had I loved listening to it because it just, you know, it was really sweet. It's what I hope every fan of tennis can experience at least once, because that's the beauty and the joy of actually going to see live tennis, is having moments like that. So can't wait to talk about it. But let's start from the beginning. So we know when you were there, So for someone who doesn't know, for example, I've never been to Wimbledon. I've only been to the US Open, and the grounds are massive. It takes a while to walk from one end to the other. What are the grounds of Wimbledon like?
What are the grounds of Wimbledon like? Okay, so essentially, the grounds of Wimbledon are designed to be as much like how they have always been as possible. There are elements of modernisation, but they want to kind of keep that feel of kind of that traditional English tea party feel, or garden party, if you were. Sort of in a public park, you've got like flowers everywhere, like there's a couple of nice fountains. Centre court is covered in ivy. That's kind of the feel of it. It's very, I would say, it's very intimate. It is quite small, surprisingly small, I think, for such a big event. But I think that adds to the charm of it. And but essentially, yeah, you can get around the grounds pretty quickly. So there was one point where my mum and I were like watching different things, and there was a little bit of tension because this was the second day, and I wanted to go and watch Bianca Andreescu against Linda Noskova, and Mum wanted to get back to court 2 and watch the end of Felix versus Kokkinakis, because we'd been there for when the match was suspended, and she wanted to see the conclusion, and I kind of did as well. But I also thought Andreescu versus Noskova was going to be a really, really good match. And so what I realised was, I think I can catch some of Andreescu whilst they're kind of getting going. And from where you're standing on court 8, like there's a balcony above court 18 that anyone can like stand at and look over. So you have to sacrifice being sat down, but you actually get quite a good view. And I looked over, like there was a giant scoreboard opposite, and I saw Kokkinakis was a break up in the 4th, and I was like, yes. Now Bianca, get this match done so we can run over to court 2. But we got from court 18, which is one side of the ground, to court 2, which is literally the other side, the opposite side, within a couple of minutes, and got in fairly smoothly as well because we had tickets.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of gives you a feel of the size and everything, kind of the look of it. It's definitely I've never been anywhere like it. It does kind of have. Imagine tennis in a public park, but everywhere's made of grass. Like all the courts are grass, and it kind of blends in with everything, which actually I think works quite well.
Oh, that's great! So it's a nice, intimate venue, which kind of explains why, I'm sure if you've seen in the news, Wimbledon is trying to expand and also maybe move their qualifying if they're able to expand. And now it kind of makes sense because right now it's too small to take on all the other things. But one thing I also wanted to ask, because this is for guests as well, can be very important. What is the food and drink situation like? Like I know about the strawberries and cream. You have to do that when you're going to Wimbledon. But if you're going for a day out, for example, Wimbledon, is it expensive, cheap? Like what's the cost like to like just stay there all day?
It is expensive. I'm not going to lie. You are paying a premium for food. I will be honest with you, Anastasia, I didn't buy food this year at Wimbledon because although they do like bag searches, they're more worried about things you could do to bring in to disrupt the event. They're okay with you bringing food on site. So basically what I did was I basically just went and bought food beforehand and brought it in a bag. There was a hilarious moment. So basically I was between hotels on the 3rd day. So I was carrying a rucksack with like all my changes of clothes in and stuff for lunch. And it was a little bulky, and the security guard did ask me what was in it. But fortunately, he did open it up. I was like I just don't search too much because I don't need my laundry all over the outside of Wimbledon. So in terms of food and drink, like the only thing that's relatively reasonably priced is ironically the strawberries and cream, which is about £2.50 a thing. But you don't get that many strawberries, to be honest. It's not that big a helping you get.
Right. Yeah.
They actually, in the Wimbledon Museum, they had, I think it was in the Wimbledon Museum, they had a timeline of like the strawberries getting to Wimbledon. And in terms of like how it usually works, apparently they pick them from a farm at 4 a.m. to be delivered to Wimbledon for 10 a.m. Like they're literally picked that morning.
No way, it's same day.
Yeah, that fresh.
Oh, wow. That is such a good little anecdote. I did not realize. That's cool. That's super cool. So local and fresh.
Yes. So like, you got to do it once, right? And there are some like coffee shops and things. There's also places where you get some fast food. So fries or hot dogs or things like that. But I didn't partake in that. There are also plenty of bars where you can get yourself a drink. The Pimm's was flowing at Wimbledon, particularly for the people sitting next to me on Thursday, who I think probably had about three lots of Pimm's, which I don't know. Are Americans familiar with Pimm's?
Not really. I would say no. So well, I have two questions for you. You're going to explain what a Pimm's is, and also, is the cup commemorative? So, for example, if you go to the U.S. Open, the cup that the honeydews come in, you can take it home as a souvenir. Is that the same thing with Pimm's?
If you were very careful with it, yes, but it's meant to be sort of recyclable. And
okay,
yeah, it's kind of.
So it's not sort of because
I've seen the US Open ones.
The US Open, yeah,
no, it's meant to be environmentally sustainable. They're kind of going big on it. So actually, this year, even the players are using like reusable water bottles, like refillable water bottles, rather than the plastic ones. That's got a whole thing. Like you could take the cups home, but you'd have to stash it very carefully in your bag and hope it didn't get squashed. Essentially, Pimm's is a gin-based liqueur that typically you have usually with lemonade or something like that, and lots of fruit mixed in, particularly strawberries. Sometimes you can have tonic as well with it. It's quite strong. You do want to kind of mix it carefully, and the barkeeps do. But it's quite a sweet drink as well. It is actually quite a sweet liqueur. So obviously we Brits tend to have things a bit sweeter than the Americans, I've been told.
Yes, definitely. I think the honeydews is vodka based. Yes, if I remember correctly, it is vodka based because then they have a vodka sponsor. Cool. That's great. See, little differences between the slams. I love the fact that you can bring food because I do that all the time too for the US Open. You can bring food in sort of like a reusable plastic container as long as they can see what's in it. And I do the same thing because the food costs are crazy at the slam sometimes. What about the shop, like the Wimbledon shop? Like, because everyone wants to always, get a hat or a towel. Are those pretty sort of, I'm guessing, expensive too?
Yes. So my mum cannot be priced away from a gift shop. She took advantage of the fact we got there at like 10 a.m. an hour before play started, and it was relatively wet, and sort of we ended up in two. So there are multiple branches of the Wimbledon shop on site. There's one underneath centre. There's one underneath court one. There's one where the museum is, and then there's like little stalls dotted around. Yeah, and you're definitely paying a premium for anything you want to take. Obviously, there's like Wimbledon also is like got a Ralph Lauren outlet, so that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that's part of it. They seem to just partner up as a sponsor. But yeah, so I'll give you. So my mum was thinking of getting a Wimbledon hat, like a straw boater type thing, and that cost £120 to give you a sense of it. Yeah,
a straw hat.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you want to get a souvenir, like you can get yourself a key ring or something for like again, somewhat overpriced for like 15, 20 quid, but which might or something like that. But yeah, they do tend to like charge you a lot. And it is noticeable that a lot of people who are in the shop and buying everything up are from out of town, or rather out of the country. And so they're like, we're going to bring all the souvenirs back. And obviously you would, right? If you flew in and like you're going to do this, especially you want to bring mementos back. That makes sense.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So those are really great tips for anyone going. Again, I think Wimbledon is such a bucket list for a lot of people. So that's all lovely. So, everyone wants to know because a ground pass is the cheapest way to go to all these tournaments. So most people are going to be going to these events on a ground pass, but you also kind of want to see your favorite player. So how would you say Wimbledon stacks up in terms of accessibility to see your favorite players? Like, are the practice courts like accessible, or do the outside courts get used a lot? It seemed like a lot of big players played on the outside courts.
Well, yeah, so here's the thing. I'm coming at this with lack of experience of other tournaments. Like Wimbledon, I've been to like 6 times now. I've been to the Birmingham 250, which is now going to be a challenger next year. I think if you got there early enough, you get great access to watch people practice on a ground pass there. But they have they have literally like 4 courts at that tournament total. Right. And if you wanted to see other people practicing, they might not even necessarily be on the same surface. So there's only like 4 grass courts there. So I don't have much point of a comparison. I think I tried to get a gauge based on Indian Wells, but obviously never been there. But like a lot of the stuff that you were putting out was really, really helpful. So you can go to the practice courts. But again, that's got to be something you do as soon as you go on site, pretty much, because practice courts are there's not a lot of space, and you can't see all of them. So it's so like you get there, and you're trying to line up along a wall, single file, to have a look through, and like you get a pretty good view of about 4 or 5 of a couple of courts, like up to 2 to 3 courts, maybe 5, depending on where you're standing. And you can get pretty close, but there's like a wire fence in between. You'd have to try and climb it, and I think security would have security would quite easily be able to bring you down. There's wire fences between you and the players. There's also like a red rope, so like there's a walkway for you, and then there's a walkway for the players to get to and from the practice courts.
Okay.
So you can see.
So there isn't sort of like stadium seating or like
seating
standing where you could watch practice.
No, there is no seating at all. You literally just stand on a path. And you just try and get as good look as possible. Like I was standing quite close to Karen Hatchanov with a wire fence between us, which was cool. But yeah, that was kind of the idea. And like Bianca Andreescu came down. I think I said this in the mini pod, and she only had the rope between us and like her team around her, but she was stopping to take selfies with people, which was fantastic. And like that was really, so like when they're walking to practice, you can get right next to them. Yeah. But like there are also practice courts sort of a level down and behind the ones in public view that you cannot get a good look at. Like there was some where I could see people were playing, but were too far away to make out who they were. I think I saw Alcaraz possibly, given it was so build and haircut and beard, but it was very, very difficult to tell 100% from the distance. And like, there are some players who prefer to go onto those because particularly if they have an injury or something, where they could just hit and not be observed by fans or the media.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is how Mum ended up actually walking to Hule Niemeyer because because basically we decided to leave and it was getting quite congested. We would have to push past people to get out. And so one of the security people basically just opened up the rope and said, well, you're going out. So one way only, just go out and get going. My mum, who is very much unusually for her in an I do what I want mode, kind of stopped to take more photos. And I was trying to chivvy her along, but then Hule Niemeyer was walking out of her practice court. Mum was standing to the side trying to take a photo, and Niemeyer nearly walked into her. I was like, oh, for crying out loud. It's almost also, there was also an incident where my mum tried to stand and take shelter in front of the door to the referee's office, the umpire's office, where they all work during a downpour. Yeah. And I was like, Mum, you can't stand there. She's like, well, if we get look, I'm going to stand here until I'm told to move. And within about 30 seconds, she was told to move.
Your mom's like the perfect mom. She's like, I will do what I want.
The thing is, though, she's not normally like that. She's usually much more considerate, but yeah.
Just this time. Okay, great. That's like really cool. But so at the US Open and at least the American tournaments I've gone to, practice courts are a little bit more of a thing in the sense that there's seating and fans can stay there and watch. And I know a lot of fans with ground passes who kind of camp out at practice courts because that's where they get to see the big names because they don't have tickets to the show court. So they just stay at practice courts and they get to see Alcaraz and Sinner and all of that business. But okay, that's great. And
there is one thing I will add.
Now, what?
I do want to add about seeing people practice, right? So I think I mentioned in the mini pod, it was definitely all over my social media that I actually managed to get quite close to Iga Świątek as she was practicing on a match court on a court that's usually used for matches, because for some reason on day 2, court 10 wasn't being used. And you do see sometimes that like players warm up on match courts for their matches, but that generally tends to happen towards the end of a tournament, so second week. And usually before fans come in. But even so, so actually, if you can't get a ground pass in second week, there's a good chance you might see some top players warming up on match courts before they go. And so I got to see Iga on court 10 because I happened to be sitting in the right position on court 12 to look over the site of Wimbledon and spot she was there, which I know that story made you laugh. But apparently, I'm talking to someone else on Twitter, an Elena Rybakina fan. Rybakina did the same thing. Rybakina was also warming up in court 10 that morning. And again, people were kind of able to gather around and watch it as if it was a match. The only reason I didn't know about Rybakina was because at the time she would have been warming up, because it was like the pre-match warm-up hit. I would have been on court 2 watching Jessica Pegula, which is like, it's directly, court 10's next to court 2. It's like across the walkway, but you have to literally be sat at the back of court 2 and turn around to have a look over. Yeah. So I literally had my back to her when she was there. So I had no idea. So it's one of those things that maybe if like you see they're not using a match court, that might get used by some players for warm-ups.
Oh, so, okay. Here's also another thing. So the US Open app, for example, always puts on when a player is practicing.
No, they have a that does not happen at Wimbledon at all. You do not know.
I see.
It's they do not make those schedules public. You go and see who you see. If you want to go check out the practice courts at Arangi, which is the name of the place.
Interesting.
Like Rybakina and Swiatek, that was completely spontaneous. There was no announcement that was happening. There was no way of finding out.
Interesting. Okay.
I think they kind of this is actually a nice slam maybe for the players to get a little bit more kind of privacy in some ways, actually.
It seems like it. It seems like it because at the US Open, for example, other than, so you have Fan Week, which is the week before, where there's literally, all the show courts are used as practice courts and there's a schedule. And I remember that's when I got to see Serena Williams and Nadal. And I was like this close to them because I was able to be literally in the front row on Arthur Ashe, which those tickets go for thousands and thousands of dollars. I could never do that in person, but I was able to do that during Fan Week. And then during the tournament, there's always a practice schedule. So every day the practice schedule starts around like 8 or 9 a.m. And if you get there super early, you can watch them practice. So that's so fascinating that Wimbledon doesn't do that. But you're right. The players might enjoy that sort of privacy at this slam that they don't have to almost be on show all the time.
Or they did, obviously Iga didn't have a problem with being on show, hitting her warm up on court 10. But then she didn't have a crowd of people chasing after her, if that makes any sense.
Right, so, exactly.
And when
they didn't know.
No.
Yeah.
And actually that's a point. I was going to ask you a question about the US Open just for kind of comparison of tickets to kind of give an idea, because you were also asking about sort of going to see players if they're playing. That was something that you were going to do as well. So US Open, you've got Ashe, you've got Armstrong, you've got Grandstand.
Yes.
Are those the only set tickets that get you into only those stadiums? Is it then ticket for Ashe, ticket for Armstrong, ticket for Grandstand, and then a Grand Pass? Is that the 4 types of tickets?
Yes.
Okay. So Wimbledon's the same.
Those are the 4 types of tickets.
Okay. So Wimbledon's the same.
And so here's a Ground Pass can get you into the upper levels of Grandstand and Armstrong, but not Ashe. Is that the same thing at Wimbledon?
No. Ground passes will not get you anywhere into centre 1 or 2. If you want to get into centre 1 or 2 and you have a ground pass, you need to jump into the resale queue and hope that someone's not given their ticket back or they haven't sold anything. It's kind of situations like that, essentially. I mean, sometimes I think, to be honest, there were points towards the end of the day where the stewards did stop caring about court 2. So I probably could have walked in. It's one of those things you don't want a chance.
Yeah. Here's something I heard that I thought was pretty cool, though. I believe there was one day where either a match was added to center court or something like that. And then they made an announcement and they let people in into the center court because all the seats were empty. And if you were on the grounds, they kind of let people in, which I thought was really cool. It's something that I always say I want to see happen.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've never heard I didn't hear an announcement when I was there on day 2. Day 3, I think they did move a match onto court 1, but there wasn't a ground-wide announcement. But it wouldn't surprise me if they do that because there seems to be this thing of like past a certain point, everyone just goes home. So if people are leaving the grounds and they're not going to use those tickets anymore, you may as well just start letting people in. So I think from time to time, Wimbledon will do that. It does depend on the match, though. I think if they moved a big name or a Brit on, they might not do that because it might be swamped, especially if it's raining. So it might be something they do when it's dry, which this Wimbledon, the dry weather's been at a premium. Like I kid you not, the day I went was the one day it didn't rain with the Thursday.
Yeah.
Which is ironically, I was on the court that I didn't need to worry about rain.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great. We have before very early on did the whole sort of like, how do you get tickets to Wimbledon? But just really quick, can you do a quick recap of if I want to go to Wimbledon next year, how do I get tickets?
I don't know if we did that. I think it's going to deserve a full episode. And to be honest, it's something I think I might have to write about, like write a guide. Maybe we'll put it on the Grand Pass website or something, or I'll get it published somewhere else. But no, Anastasia is like, please give us the content, Nick. So very quick rundown. You need to go through the ballot. You need to apply for the ballot, and you are offered tickets or you're not, or you queue for a Grand Pass on the day. There are other ways you can get tickets. Again, they're big court tickets and they're not Grand Passes, which, there are ways around it. Particularly if you're in the ballot, like there's little ways that you can kind of get in. Interestingly, if you have an American Express card, you actually have access to like last minute ticket sales.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
But like apparently those tickets sell out within seconds. So you have to be on it. Similarly with the ballot, if you aren't successful on the ballot, you are actually eligible for if tickets come up to buy online. That's how I got my centre court ticket. But you have to check Wimbledon regularly. You're not notified of it when suddenly they start selling tickets online. But like you are eligible for resale tickets if you were not successful in the ballot online, even up to like the day before or a couple of days before. So, but they tend to put them up in batches. But that's generally where you can get it, unless of course you're lucky enough to, pay for a debenture, which is like thousands of pounds, or kind of be associated with like an organization that may have bought some up. So that's how it works. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the short explanation, but Nick's going to be really kind and write us a guide sometime and we'll put it up on the website.
I'll try and do it before September, which is when the ballot opens.
It comes up. Nice. I've been thinking of doing one, which I am going to. I'm going to do one for the US Open because they are, once you've been, and especially when you've been multiple years, you kind of build up some tips and tricks that could be useful to new fans. But yeah, there's Nick's Wimbledon journey. That was really fun. Let's jump in really quick and kind of do sort of a rapid fire so that we're not here till, 9 a.m. or 9 p.m.
My time. If we go for another 20 minutes, we'll be here till 9 p.m. for me.
Time zones. But a quick hit on the stories that have happened so far at Wimbledon. So we're talking to you Monday, July 8th. We are into the second week of Wimbledon and a bunch of stuff has happened already. You would have seen that Andy Murray played his last match at Wimbledon, which was very emotional. It was part of Nick's perfect day at Wimbledon. So go back and listen to his episode. It was a very sweet gesture. Like it was perfect. Like I don't think I could have it could have been any better than it was. Him playing with his brother, having his whole family there, and then the video that they played for him, it was really, really sweet.
Yeah, it was. And the interview he gave afterwards was, I mean, like, he did well given he had thousands of people watching him at that point. And he was just himself, and he was very honest. And yeah, he showed why he showed us why he loves the sport, and he showed us everything about Andy Murray that we love. And it was an emotional event to be at. Absolutely incredible. And in a way, I'm actually quite glad that he didn't play doubles with Raducanu, because that was the other story, was they were going to play mixed doubles, and then Raducanu pulled out because she was worried about her wrist. And there was a bit of a hoo-ha about it. But I was like, well, you've done this kind of goodbye celebration on centre court, and they're going to put them on court one. And if they lose, then Andy Murray kind of slips off quietly. And maybe he wants to slip off quietly, but we don't want him to. So, sorry, Andy, it didn't work out like that. So I think it was the better way for him. Almost the better way. Obviously, the best way would have been to go out playing singles, but it was better, I think, for him to do that with his brother, as you say, and actually be pretty competitive, because that match could have gone either way. I know it was straight sets, but that match literally could have gone either way.
Yeah. No, it was a really good match. And then a couple other things, so far the men's draw has been going pretty to plan, I would say, in terms of seedings and things like that. There hasn't been anything too crazy. I will say, for me, one of the big stories to come out of Wimbledon on the ATP side is Giovanni Mpessi-Pericard. He is a young French player, and his nickname, as he has told us, it's his gaming nickname, is Le Pech. So I'm going to call him that. But he's 6'8", big serve. And I've been watching him for a while, and he was coming on grass, and I thought, oh, he could be really good on grass. And then he lost in qualifying. And I was really bummed, because I really wanted to see how he would do this tournament. And if you've been following along, there's been a lot of withdrawals and injuries this tournament. So he actually was able to get into the tournament as a lucky loser. And boy, did he crash into the draw as a lucky loser. He replaced Sebi Korda's first round match. And I think Sebi Korda was not very pleased or happy with that, because he won that match kicking Sebi Korda out. And then he's kind of gone on a little run. He was knocked out of the tournament today by Lorenzo Musetti, who's another great name that's having I never really saw Musetti as a grass court player, but he's had some really great results this season on grass. But yeah, to get to the fourth round, it's his very first Grand Slam fourth round. It's also his birthday today, even though he lost. So I think he had a little great Wimbledon tournament.
Is he 20 or 21 now?
21. He just turned 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, not bad, Lepech. Not bad at all. He's been someone who's obviously caused a lot of fuss. I actually tried to go and watch his match against Korda on court 16 when I was there. I think it was day 2. I was there, I couldn't get on the court. There was a queue outside, because the seating on those courts is at a premium. There's like tens of seats there. And I was at a queue behind people who actually were there to watch Caroline Wozniacki and Holger Rune, who were coming on after. So there was also a fight between people who wanted to be on that court for a later match. So unfortunately, because I knew you were watching it, and I knew that it was good, and I could see it was really, really close. I thought this could be a really epic match to be part of, but I basically just went, it's not worth waiting. There's other good matches going on. I'm not sitting here and waiting in the hope, because I might miss it. So, and I might miss something else. So, I gave up in the end. But, Mpessi-Pericard, hearing good things, not surprised he did this well, given the form he's in, and certainly another exciting name to be adding to the tour with his big serve and his single-handed backhand.
What stories on the WTA have kind of piqued your interest? This tournament so far?
The WTA has been... reverted to being messy again. This is Wimbledon, right? This always seems to happen at Wimbledon, where like I think the lack of experience on grass, it kind of shows, and there are some people who just take the opportunity to go and grab it. No big surprises, because everyone who's still left of the tournament, because we now know who the quarterfinalists are, and we're probably about to know who all the men's quarterfinalists are, because Djokovic is now has 2 sets and a breakup on Holger Rune. None of the names on there surprise, because there's Grand Slam champions in there. There's people who've been playing well all season and on grass still in there. So it's just more that obviously the big names have either been injured or grass is not their thing. So, or kind of ran into one of these players who was having a really, really good day. And it's kind of a combination of those things, why Iga Swiatek is out, why Coco Gauff is out. But you're right. The women's draw has also been massively impacted by injuries all the way through. And like we saw it before with Sabalenka pulling out, with Azarenka not playing. We've had lots of withdrawals. But I think all the players who are left are sort of super fresh, and it's all really exciting, because I genuinely... It feels a little bit open, even though there's one player left that probably on paper should sweep this, but you can never tell with Wimbledon. The one player who we weren't expecting, which is kind of, I think, the story of the tournament a little bit, is Lulu Sun, who kind of stole Emma Raducanu's thunder, because Emma Raducanu was kind of building for something here. She had a nervy start, but then she demolished Elise Mertens and Maria Sakkari, 2 very well-established players, on centre court, and kind of caught one on centre court, actually, and then kind of looked really good. Like, her section opened up, like, oh, we're going to get Emma in the semis. Is she back? Is this going to be, something special? And then Lulu Sun happened. And Lulu Sun is it's ironic that she did to Raducanu what she did, given Lulu Sun is also a qualifier who's playing her second ever Grand Slam. Sound familiar to anyone who's been a tennis fan for a bit? If you don't know and you are new to tennis, that's how Emma Raducanu won the US Open. Sun's a bit older than Raducanu was. She's in her early 20s. She's a college player. Which university she went to escapes me, but...
She went to Austin, Texas.
Born in New Zealand, has moved back to New Zealand, but was playing for Switzerland up until the beginning of the year, but she's just switched back to New Zealand. And it was really interesting because I didn't watch any of her matches. She took out Shang Qinwen in the first round. No one was massively surprised by that. Shang Qinwen is not necessarily a great grass court player or confident grass court player yet. Sun had come through qualifying. She had momentum. That's another similarity to Raducanu. And then she got through the next 2 matches, but they were kind of unseeded opponents. She was like, oh, okay, the draw opened up and you got through. But I hadn't seen her play. And apparently not a lot of other people had, because I did put a tweet out saying, has anyone seen Lulu Sun playing before today, during the match? And I got a whole load of responses, of which 90% was no, but she looks awesome, because she was awesome against Raducanu. She hit over 50 winners, or about 50 winners against Emma. And essentially what we found out, Lulu Sun was a flat-hitting lefty. Big hitting, and she was just going for it. She just basically went, this is my shot, I'm going for it, let's see what happens. And everything was going in, and Emma Raducanu struggled to live with it. Credit to Emma for getting a set, because she really had to fight against the tide to get that set. And a little unfortunate to slip over as well.
Yeah.
But taking away from Sun, Sun kind of made her life incredibly difficult for a couple of hours, and the emotion got to her at the end. It was wonderful to kind of see her realizing that she was in a Grand Slam quarterfinal, and this all kind of happened really quickly for her. And Lulu Sun turns out to be a really, really exciting player. And I don't think this is going to be the last we talk about her. Certainly she's going to get a little bit more attention in any tournament she plays in the future, regardless of how her quarterfinal goes tomorrow with Donna Vekic.
No, totally. And, these are the moments that can really elevate a player because, for example, coming into the tournament, she was ranked 123. So she would have needed to go through qualifying and she wouldn't have gotten into the WTA 1000s or smaller tournaments because she would have to go to qualifying. And now in the live ranking, she's at 53, which will get her into the tournaments. A very similar story as well to Giovanni Mempeschi Pericard. He's now in the top 50 based on, is it top 50 or at least top 60? But based on
I think
his
about
run.
top 60-ish, And actually, important to note, next week's rankings on Monday will decide who automatically gets into the US Open. So if you are following it and you want to check the rankings, if you're American, it's who's definitely going to be in the US Open, you want to look around about the top sort of 90 to 95, maybe even down to 98. They are probably going to be at the US Open this year, barring injury. And Lulu's son's performance, Giovanni Mempeschi Pericard, I think there's another player on the men's side who did the same thing. Emma Raducanu's probably done enough. Palabadossa's done enough. This week was a big week for people trying to make sure they definitely get into the US Open without needing qualifying or wild cards. So, just a kind of a shout out for that.
Yeah. No, big week for some players. So, what's coming up? Well, quarterfinals. The quarterfinals at Wimbledon are coming up. And on the men's side, we've got Jannik Sinner is playing Daniil Medvedev, which is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know if Daniil can fix that matchup. I think Sinner has run away and is leading it, and it will take a lot because Sinner is looking phenomenal.
Especially on grass, right? I feel Daniil on grass is strong, but maybe not as strong as he would have been previously. But Sinner and grass is looking like a really dream combination right now. And I'm agreeing with you. I think Medvedev is going to have to try something really imaginative tomorrow to have a go at it. A bit like he tried to do for the first couple sets at Australian Open final.
Right. Another spicy one, Carlos Alcaraz and Tommy Paul. They've had some matches where Tommy Paul has taken the win. They can get really, it can get spicy. The surprise pairing that I would say that I didn't see coming is Taylor Fritz and Lorenzo Musetti are quarterfinalists at Wimbledon. It is Musetti's first time as a quarterfinalist at a Grand Slam ever.
It is. I mean, maybe a long time coming, actually. It shouldn't be surprised given his quality as a player. I will say this, sometimes us hardcore tennis fans like to do predictions. I'm going to blow my own trumpet here. No, not on this podcast, but I will blow my own trumpet here and say that I called this one.
You did?
I called it.
Really?
Pre-tournament, called it.
Well, there we go. Someone did call this one. No, I did not see this one coming. I love it. And you're right. People might ask, maybe this is something we've actually never really addressed before. We don't do predictions here. Is it because we are trying to attract more new fans but here's the thing, I hate predictions. If you watch this past week at Wimbledon, it's the exact reason why I don't like doing predictions. Tennis is tennis. And any player on their day, if they're in the top 100, even outside of the top 100, can really bring it and create upsets. And for me, that's the joy and the beauty of tennis as a sport. So I never like doing the whole sort of let's see what the draw is. But I respect people who love to do it. But I just actually don't like to do predictions. But
I do it because I like to be competitive. But also, to be honest, the main reason I have my spreadsheet to work these things out isn't necessarily actually to correctly guess the winner of the tournament, although it's nice when that does happen. It's very rare, but it does happen. The reason why I do it is actually because I can get a long list of names and basically when the draw comes out, work out who's going to play who and work out what kind of match we're going to get and I can mark my card down as that is going to be a good match. So it was massively helpful when I was planning my trip around Wimbledon grounds. I'm not saying this is what everyone has to do. I'm just one of those people who likes a system and likes planning things. And And even when I'm watching on TV, I'm like, okay, so according to my calculations, these guys are both going to be in really good form. 3-setter, 5-setter, all over it. Like, let's let these players have worked. This is going to be a clash that's worth watching, and it's about right half the time. But even if it's a straight sets match, it's usually a decent quality straight sets match.
Yeah, and this final one is a little bit tricky. Alex de Minaur, and then the winner of Grune and Djokovic, which right now Djokovic is leading still.
Yeah, Djokovic is leading by 2-0 and 3-2 with a break in the third. He's about to serve.
Okay. Yes. So Djokovic might be the person who comes out of that one, it seems like. But so at the end, so Musetti was playing, not Musetti,
de Minaur.
Alex de Minaur was playing against Arthur Fils. And on match point, after he hit, I don't know if you've seen this.
I've seen the clip,
but
yeah.
You've seen the clip? It seems like he hurt himself on match point.
He pulled up. Strangely.
Yeah. So I don't know. We don't know. I haven't seen if he's done press yet or anything, but
I've seen comments around him like he's going to live with it.
Okay. Okay. Because that might just be one where whoever his opponent is, we can just pencil them into the semifinals. But let's see about the women's. This is definitely one. Did you call this one? Ostapenko Krejcikova?
Oh, no. Like, I did not call any of these quarterfinals. But okay. I will say, so my women's system for Wimbledon's a little different because the last couple of years have been super chaotic. So I tend to cast a wide net. And so what I tend to do is kind of do what I would like to sort of call, what I call in my head a heat map, and like basically color code all the players. So like red means like super favorite, should, looking really, really good. And then all the way down to sort of like, they've got no color, they've got no form.
Yeah.
To be honest, my quarterfinals all had people quite high up the heat map. I just didn't think they were necessarily going to win the matchups to get there. So I think that was more what it was. But, and also the people I put the highest up on the heat map were the top 4 seeds. And that kind of fell apart in the end. But it was always going to be a little bit open behind, regardless. So none of the players, apart from Lulu Sun, none of the players involved are people that I am surprised to see in a Wimbledon quarterfinal. Maybe the surprise is that it all happened at the same time.
Yes. I think, you know what? That is actually a very good way to put it. None of these names other than Lulu Sun is surprising because they all have form, either former champions or they do well on grass. But the fact that they all did it at the same time is really big. But so we have Ostapenko Krejcikova, which I wouldn't have called that. I did expect Ostapenko to make it far, but I didn't expect that to be her opponent. And then you have Rybakina and Elina Svitolina, Elina Svitolina was a semifinalist last year.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if she could get through her draw again. Sometimes it happens where players can't do that, but she's been playing so well. And then it's Elena Rybakina, on grass with her serve.
Yeah, and that's been a weapon here. Just to say, Anastasia, Djokovic has slipped. He's fine. He thinks he's fine, but he's just pulling the other leg, the one that's not hurt already. But he seems to be back up and running.
Okay. It's been tricky on grass the last couple of days.
Yeah,
okay.
Grass is an interesting surface, but I love it, and I wouldn't have it and I don't want to leave it.
I love it. It's just I'm still traumatized by Maddie Keys, so
yeah,
it's been a hard few days.
Who was injured trying to serve for the match, got injured trying to serve for the match against Jasmine Paolini, and then had to retire when Paolini got it back to 5-0 in the third. So Paolini is going to be playing Emma Navarro in that quarterfinal. And that's actually something else we were talking about good on grass. Emma Navarro is an untested grass court player, actually, but she was one of those people that I was like, well, there's no reason why she couldn't be good on it. And she got to the semi-finals in Bad Homburg, and turns out, she's a good grass court player. She just beat Coco Gauff.
Yep. I think she's very underrated. I think she's very underrated. And that would have been me underrating her before I saw her play at Indian Wells, where she beat Arina Sabalenka. Like, I saw her play in person and I thought, do you know where I actually first rated her? Was at an exhibition at Indian Wells.
Interesting.
She was playing doubles with Ben Shelton.
Is that the tiebreak 10s?
Yes, it was tiebreak 10s. And I saw her play that and I thought, she's much better than I thought in person. Like, I just thought, I was like, she's a much better player than I thought. And then I watched her beat Arina Sabalenka and I thought, everyone watch out. Everyone watch out, because when she's on, she's really on. So I wasn't actually surprised by her win yesterday. And yes, she's going to get Jasmine Paolini, who is having the best year.
She's on fire right now. Jasmine Paolini's on fire.
I mean, it's crazy what she's doing right now, because she definitely, it was a shame what happened to Maddie Keys, but Jasmine Paolini was still in it, really fighting during that match. It's my match of the tournament, like, so far anyway. Who knows what's going to come, but so far that's my match of the tournament. And
even though it ended in retirement? Even though it ended in a retirement, because up until that point, it was such a good match. I can't give match of the tournament to a match that ends in a retirement. I think that's just me, but I regardless of how good it is, like that sort of anticlimax just completely takes the wind out of it. It's a bit like what happened with Tommy Paul against Medvedev at the Indian Wells semi-final.
That was the match of Indian Wells.
Yeah. So for me, that kind of like, it doesn't end well. So like for me at the minute, my favorite match of the tournament's actually the Badosa Kasatkina third round, because that was intense for 3 sets.
Yeah, that was a surprise. That was, if you want to call upset or surprise, that definitely was one. And then Donna Vekic and Lulu Sun. We've talked about Lulu Sun. Donna Vekic, I think, is someone who people have been
aware of
and like wanting to do well on grass specifically. I remember Wimbledon of last year. Everyone was talking about Donna Vekic. And then she went out in the third round maybe, or sometime.
To Vondrousova, to be fair, who eventually won the tournament.
That is true.
So,
that is true.
It was, and like she did push Vondrousova in that match, but then a lot of players in the earlier rounds did. Jessica Pegula did, famously. I think Vekic Vekic is now putting together the run that everyone thought she would last year, and she's one of those players who's kind of almost but not quite, and she's finally broken through into a Wimbledon quarterfinal, which everyone's kind of I think people are surprised it's taking this long given how good on grass she is. And depending on how Lulu Sun plays, has a very good opportunity to finally make a major semi-final, which would probably get her to kind of the position in tennis that she should already have, I think is kind of how I see it with Donna.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so that's it. We always end the same way with our player of the fortnight, but I think you already know mine. And I've talked about him enough, so I'll keep this short. But Giovanni Mempeschi-Perricard is my player of the fortnight. I think he really showed up this tournament and did well, and sort of became a name on the tour. And I think people will get to know him as the year progresses. But I think he's definitely a player to watch, and really excited about his game, because I don't think it's only about the big serve. I actually think he moves pretty well as well. So he's my player of the fortnight so far.
Did we do a player of the fortnight last week?
Did we? I don't remember.
I thought we did. But anyway, yes, we did. I'm sure we did, because I'm pretty confident I picked... who did I pick for my player? I'm sure I picked someone for the player of the fortnight. Victoria Tomova.
Oh, yes. I do actually remember. But how come I don't remember who I picked? If anyone remembers who I picked, and you can tell me on social media who I picked, would be great. Just send me a note and be like, at Ground Pass, Anastasia, this is who you picked.
Yeah, but we'll say Giovanni Pecci Pericard is your player of the week. Maybe he'll still be your player of the fortnight when we'll record after the final.
Yes. That's true. We are going to record after the final too. So maybe we will just save that. It will still be him.
I do have a name if you want one.
Who is it, Nick?
Well, the good news is it's going to be relatively short because I've already talked loads about her already. It's Lulu's son, everyone.
Of course.
The name, and she's perfect because, let's face it, okay, you've talked a lot about Giovanni and Pesci Pericard a bit on the podcast, so people might have discovered him who are listening through us, I would hope.
Yeah.
Lulu's son is someone we've never discussed before. She wasn't even on my radar before much. I'd seen the name around, but if you went and you had a ground pass and you watched Lulu's son in this tournament, either you went to qualifying or you watched her opening rounds, because she was always on ground passes, you would have discovered her before everyone else did on centre court on Sunday. So shout out to our ground passers out there because you get to find the players of the fortnight before we do.
Yep. That's the best way to end it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will be back, like Nick previewed, after the final to talk about the tournament in general, who won, and anything else that we can think about. But Nick, thanks for joining me. And yeah, we'll see you all next week. Or we'll see you all at the end of the week. Bye.
Bye.